In this video, I'll discuss how to read an academic article. You may wonder, why do we have to learn to read? Well, because academic articles are very different from short stories or newspaper articles, and as a result, they need to be read differently to be efficient. You don't read it from the first word to the last word for the beauty of the sentences or because there's a suspense and you want to know what happens at the end. No, the academic article is built for you to be able to read it in bits and parts. Now you start with the abstract. The abstract is a summary of the article and lets you know if it's an interesting article for you. If you're doing a research on your own, this is very important for you to sort out the articles that have something to do with your research or not. If it's a mandatory assignment for a class, then obviously the article is interesting to read and the abstract will be less important in the selection process. Once you've identified whether it's an article you want to read or not, you're going to go through it in 3 different phases. In the first phase, you're going to read only the introduction, which will let you understand the context, where is this research going on, the need, why is the research important, and the research question. What question are the authors trying to address? And it's good for you to be able to identify the answer to these questions. After reading the context, you can move on straight to the conclusion. What has the research developed or brought to the research question? What's new, what's interesting in this research? And you'll find that right away in the conclusion. In a second reading, you're going to go back to the beginning of the article and you're going to skim over the titles. There's a methods title that tells you what type of research the authors did. Is it quantitative? Is it qualitative? What type of data was collected? How was it analyzed? Interesting to read, especially if you're going to do a research with a similar method, and this might give you inspiration on how to do it. Then you'll move on to results, and here you can especially focus on figures and tables that give you an idea of the main results. Next, you move on to a section called implication or discussion, which helps you understand why the results are important. Third reading, if this is really a key article for you in your research, is a reading that you're going to do with a very critical mind, a reading with critical analysis, where you're going to ask yourself questions like, is the method appropriate for the type of research question? Are the results as interesting as the authors say? And what are the implications that you see for these results? So this is really the third level, which is not required for all articles, but only articles that you're going to need to use more in depth. Hopefully, these different steps will help you reading articles, make it easier for you, maybe faster for you, and more interesting. A last piece of advice is that you should probably take notes while you read, not in your first reading, but in the second and third. A good way of taking notes, I find, is by writing a mind map, maybe on the back page of the article as you write it, or you could also do it online, of course. I find mind mapping very useful with 5 different branches. I try to mind map my articles with a branch on the context, a branch on the need, a branch on the method, a branch on the result, and a branch on the implication. If you can put 2 or 3 words on each of these branches, you'll have a much better view of the article you read and of whether and why it's interesting to you. Good luck in your readings.